Good morning, Star Trek, the original series that shaped episodic sci-fi for generations to come. It did. Join us as we boldly go beyond the galaxy and explore this series from the perspective of eternity. Before we get started, hit that like button and subscribe and grab your coffee, and let's dig in. Created by Gene Roddenberry, that follows the adventures of the starship USS Enterprise and its crew. Star Trek, the original series, takes us on a voyage beyond the stars. It was supposed to be in the 23rd century and led by the intrepid Captain James T. Kirk. And the crew includes the logical half-Vulcan science officer Spock, the hottest.
The hottest. Wow. Okay. We're getting started that way, boys and girls.
Not even close. Okay, I better not continue that one because I'm going to talk about McCoy.
Well,
honest. He was honest. And just like
he's a doctor, Jim. You know that.
Yes. Dr. Jim, not one floozy. The honest and candid ship's doctor, Leonard McCoy, he was very straightforward on set. He played the straight man. And the varied ensemble of the ship's crew, and it had various different people's backgrounds, origins. You had women in there that were in positions that would have been very odd at the time. It was cutting edge for a lot of the stuff that was happening. Together, they seek out new life, new civilizations, and boldly go where no man has gone before, into the women's restroom, encountering alien species, confronting moral and ethical dilemmas, promoting a vision of peace, cooperation, and exploration in a future where humanity has overcome many of its divisions and conflicts. It ran from 1966 to 1969, 3 seasons, 79 episodes. And here you have it. We did a poll.
Before we go to the poll, you mentioned that it was influential. It set a lot of the trends that would influence sci-fi for decades to come. And I mean, we're still seeing it even today.
Right.
So, was it an instant hit?
Not to the executives and the producer, not to people in media a lot. And there was a group of people that really did like it and went for it. But it wouldn't have been the hit that you would have thought by today's standards. And it wasn't until later when it hit syndication that I think a lot of people started getting a cult following. When I was a kid, I did see it in reruns, and it was usually when I was a kid. Okay, so this is going back a little bit.
When I was a young,
for anybody who remembers the Dark Ages, we had 3 main channels. This is before streaming, right? You were locked in. When they were going to show a show, they showed a show, right? You were stuck. And at that particular time, if you weren't around watching it, this is before VHS or recording abilities or anything. If you missed a show, you missed a show. So 3 main channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, and then PBS was on the side there. And then maybe there's some others that they had on the side. Now, I was in the Los Angeles area, so there's a few other channels. But during the day, they would do reruns. They had soaps. They would run reruns. And it was then that I caught Star Trek. And I'm thinking a lot of people, maybe some of you more distinguished, mature people.
Oh, you're saying the old people.
Shush. So of us, the few that are left,
the aged,
you would have maybe picked it up then. You would have seen it then, along with Get Smart. What are some of the others? You don't know. You know. Anyway, there was
look at me. What exactly? I'm not the aged.
Yeah. Well, okay. So it would have hit in all of those. And I think that's where it really kind of gained some ground and took off with stuff. And then they brought out the movies, and they had Star Trek Next Generation, and it went from there. So I'm sorry. Was that too much? I wanted to be able to, you were talking about, was it well accepted? And
yeah, was it well accepted? Did it get insta fame right away because it was so influential?
Well, it was influential. And it was they only ran 3 seasons, and they were really, from what I understood, the crew and the cast and everybody was really kind of on the edge of the seat, wondering if they were going to be around, the next season, or when they first started the pilot went through and then it was rejected. They had to do a second pilot, which was kind of unusual. So
2 pilots.
They had 2 pilots. I think it was Menagerie in the Cage, if I remember correctly. But they had the two pilots, and then it started to take off. Do you know who was the original studios that picked them up?
No.
Desilu Productions, and it was Lucille Ball who said, "Let's do this."
Okay, be honest, that means nothing to me.
Okay.
Just to let you know, I don't know if you
All
guys know, but I know.
All right, there was an old show called I Love Lucy. It was a comedy, and she had become big in Hollywood, and she had picked it up, and it was not something you would think of related to science fiction at all, but she did. And according to legend, she saw Majel Barrett, who was Gene Roddenberry's, who is the producer, his main squeeze. I don't know if they were married at the time. She does. Oh man, she played three different people. She was the nurse in the original series. Okay, with McCoy. She was Loxana Troy, who is Troy's mom, and she was the computer voice in Next Generation. So she played a lot, and she was influential a lot in the original development of Star Trek and stuff like that. Anyway, she was in the pilot. She was number 1 in the main pilots for all that's worth. But when Lucille Ball saw that a woman had a position of not so much power, but a position of authority within the original series, she said, "This might be something to put my effort into," and that's where it took off. So,
and now we have, so many cons and Trekkies everywhere, and
yes, yeah. So
it all started with one woman saying, "This might be worth trying."
So, as far as the influence goes, we'll get into the review here in a minute to check out the poll. But you started introducing the review, the influence. This, if you're going to talk to somebody about Star Trek Next Generation, it's not going to be so much like, "Did you see the latest episode?" Because
it's old.
Yeah.
It's old.
No, it's not that old.
And then this one's even older than Next Generation.
Yeah. So it's not going to be like that. But what I think what it is with this series in particular, it had such an impact in society. It's left its imprint. And one of it left its imprint culturally, and also influenced, I believe, a lot of people in thinking there is a possibility. There's a possibility of a positive future that we could actually work for, and influence a lot of engineers to say, I'd like to get into that. I'd like to fiddle around with that stuff. And that inspired a lot of people. Even the original phones, the original cellular phones that came out.
Eventually leading to these bricks. But yes.
Well, what was the phone before then?
It was the flip phone, which is what they had on the show, was like a flip phone that they were able to instantly call, and then someone's like, "Oh, I wonder if that could actually work."
I should have brought one of those.
And then they had,
I think I got one of those in my junk drawer still, just to show. But everybody knows what they look like.
The flip phone, and then that eventually led into the little handheld computers we have today that we call phones.
Yes, yeah. So there was it inspired technology and inspired engineers, people to get into the engineering field. It had an influence on culture, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. So we also had a poll that we put up, and I'm gonna throw that up on the screen here. The poll asked which of the characters from Star Trek: The Next Generation, or the original series, best embodies a strong moral compass. I think this poll is pretty accurate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If I were to rate like the first, you can't do this with these polls. It's like if you were to rate 1, 2, and 3, this came up with that. So Spock got the top place with about 44% of the vote. McCoy came in second with 33%, and poor little lonely James Tiberius Kirk ended up with 22%.
Let's be honest, that's well earned.
What? You mean that he got voted so low?
Yes, that was well earned.
Why would you say that?
He's a bit of he's not the most moral individual.
He stood up
No,
for
he
truth,
didn't.
justice, in the Federation way. He
He stood up for some things.
Okay, well, if any female needed to be introduced to how males operate in bed, he's probably, any of these aliens, especially the greener the better, right? I think that was a rule. But anyway, yeah, he kind of had a reputation for that. So he bent the rules a lot. I guess you say Spock would be on number. Why would you put Spock as number one?
It's just cold logic. His was just cold logic. It's all analytical.
Yeah, I think
it wasn't emotionally driven.
He did have a code of ethics, Vulcan ethics, that he
stuck to, and
he had the whole struggle between.
No, the actor really defined what Vulcans were going to be. Period.
You talk about Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah,
defined it.
Yeah, he defined it because, again, he's the only one doing this. He's the first Vulcan, and he's the first one actually defining it, not in the series, but in reality.
Right.
So he's given this role, and he has to define it himself, and he has to come up with these rules and work within them. And he did a great job.
Yeah, so you could even see if you were to watch it from the beginning, from the pilot on out, the pilot, he's laughing. He's supposed to be no emotion later, right? But they hadn't developed.
They haven't developed that yet.
And here's an interesting thing: as far as a season, as a show or a story progresses in science fiction or fantasy, do you have everything scripted at the beginning of what the worldview is, or is that something that develops over time? We can look back at it now and laugh and say, "Come on!" I mean, they broke their rules because he's in the pilot. He's having a good time.
Yeah.
But is it better than as a writer to have everything developed up front or to let it develop over time? Leonard Nimoy was Jewish, and the whole long live and prosper, the Vulcan sign, and any Trekkies would know this, that was taken from from what I understood, it was something his rabbi had done, or it was a part of a ritual. And it was supposed to be the sign of Sheen, the Hebrew letter with three staffs that come up. And as he prayed, he would have his hand up like this. So Leonard Nimoy brought that in. I think he even did the Vulcan neck pinch because there was an episode where he was supposed to knock somebody out. And even though Leonard Nimoy had played the tough dude in some earlier shows before he got to Star Trek, he looked at. It may have been Roddenberry. He said a Vulcan would not do that. He would have a more civilized way to take control. And so then he did the neck pinch.
See, that's what I mean. Of absolutely defining that sort of characters. And again, that goes through to today, and we still see Vulcans in a lot of the Star Treks and everything like that. Was all based off of his concept of what a Vulcan should be. So the whole neck pinch thing, that came out of his own perception of what a Vulcan should be and how he defined it, which is really cool to look back on and say, wow, so that one person had so much influence in our culture. Because you got Trekkies, you got everyone dressing up, you got all this stuff that happens now.
So what are you saying with the influence of people? You're saying the influence of shows or influence of individuals making an impact? What are you talking about?
It was a lot of, the show in general influenced a lot of our culture as far as like what we talked about, inventions as far as phones, and there's a few others that have also come out of that. It's actually kind of surprising how much of the technology shown in the show that ended up inspiring things to come through. Inspiring people to create things, but then you also have just inspiring people in general to want to, become an engineer, become a scientist, go down these avenues and explore what we can do.
Well, the show's creator, Gene Roddenberry, had envisioned a future where humanity had overcome many of the past problems and had worked together to try to get a common good for the future. And this is a positive picture that he paints. But with that, he presented this utopian world where all people, regardless of race, nationality, sex, would work together. Now, my question for you is this a progressive ideal?
Progressive in some ways, at least that's what they put forth first, I think. The other one, as far as
no, just in terms of progressive, would people view this as a progressive ideal?
Yes.
Okay. And Star Trek would often be in discussions you bring up with discussions with people, and to say, yeah, this was the ideal, to say that everybody works together for the common good. It doesn't matter what your background, your origin, now you would add sexual orientation and whatever on top of that. But back then it was just those three, with sex in there too, male or female, doesn't matter. Now, is that a bad thing?
Is that a bad thing? No.
Okay.
To all work together for a goal to better humanity? No.
That would be it's a good thing. Is that a Christian ideal?
Yes. Us working together, I'd say Christianity is compatible with that concept.
Why do you say that's a Christian ideal?
Well, in Christianity, we are all the same at the foot of the cross. We all need redemption. We all need salvation. There is no slave, no free, no male or female. We are all the same level.
Okay. There. And how about together in heaven? It doesn't matter what our nationality
doesn't matter,
right? Doesn't matter for male or female.
Yeah, the offer of the cross is for anyone that wants it. It's no matter what your background is, no matter what you've done in the past.
Well, that's what the thing though too is. So then we switch to things that are innate about us, whether it's our ethnic background, our race, male or female. All those things we're basically born with all that. It's the question of sin then is our choices that we do after that. That's where the difference is say that it's not just, well, you can do whatever. No, there's a moral decision to say, hey, you're hurting other people, you're hurting yourself. There's a corruption that's there that you need to change. You can't bring that with you. You need to turn that around. Right?
Yeah. I think the main question that this would open up is, can we reach that through a secular avenue?
There you go. So did Star Trek portray religion in a diminishing or negative light?
I'd say diminishing. It's not even there most of the time.
Maybe not so much negative, right?
Yeah, it's not negative. I wouldn't say negative. I just say it wasn't there. It was just gone. So it portrays the future, this positive, glorious future, as something mostly secular. So everybody's there. You have all the people, but there's no God. Yep.
Right.
God's not there.
And then it's there's maybe limited references to traditional Christianity. Remember, there's that one episode where Uhura says, "Don't you know they're talking about the sun? They're not sun worshipers. They're talking about the Son of God." And that just came out of nowhere. I believe there's a story behind that, but it's like, what? But she does lay that. But that's the only reference that's there. So there's kind of this mentality that humanity has moved. We've grown. We've moved beyond the need for money. We no longer use currency.
Except for when they do,
because they're kind of going back and forth.
Okay, convenient.
yeah. So we're not consistent with that. With no gold plus platinum here or anything like that. Okay, you see nothing, we're gambling. You see nothing, there's no money. Okay, so there's no money here. We have a moneyless society, and it's this utopia,
and there's
no God.
Yep.
Right. Does that sound like any kind of philosophy that reaches for this ultimate utopia for communism. Society? Communism. So in communism, there is currency, but it's all shared, supposedly.
Socialism.
Well, communism is an extension from that. So it's all shared, and you have then there's no God either. In fact, Karl Marx said that the religion is the opiate of the people, that you need to take religion out. There is no religion. The state is what's in charge. So in a way, we had a bit of this with the Federation. The Federation then commands everything. We're going. So would you say then I think we should do another episode, another live stream, or maybe even something it's not a live stream, that's an actual pre-planned video where we talk about the influence of science fiction on culture. How
an entire morning show just on that alone.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna push some of that discussion off on there, and then talk
real quick, because we didn't address the question. Could you get to that through a secular avenue? Was the question that we had.
Okay.
The answer is no, you can't. You have to have something that unites the people in order to something that unites the people in order to get it. You can't just go, well, it's just the greater good. We're all working together for the greater good, because everyone's perception on that good concept can be different. And there's a lot of ideologies out there that wouldn't coincide with that greater good that they showed in the show, because it's anti their greatest quote unquote good. So Christianity would work alongside it, because that's sort of what it was, and it would have been much more believable if it was a Christian society.
So,
but even then, humanity itself is inherently corrupt after the fall. So, sorry.
So you have the dark side of human nature that does not get addressed in communism.
Yes.
Okay. So
you go with the assumption that humanity is perfect if just these things were removed from it. We've seen time and time again that that's not so much.
Yeah, but that wasn't real communism. We need to try real communism. How many times do we need to try that? How many failed states was that in? And how many, sadly, maybe 200 million people lost their lives in the experiment that we had called communism, and still it's tried. Now, we try not to get political in here, but there is these ideals that are talked about in this show, and it's good to say, could you have a future, a godless future, a utopia that's actually going to work out? And we tried that experiment many times, and it's always ended up in failure.
And again, that goes back to the basis of that is the main assumption is that humanity is either inherently corrupt or inherently perfect, and if just outside influences that are making it corrupt, or that we need something outside of us to make us into better people.
Yeah.
And the answer for Christianity, it is, we are screwed up. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. We need God's salvation in order to in order to reestablish what we were originally intended to be.
Right.
But in secularism, it is everyone's perfect the way they are. It's just these outside influences that are corrupting us.
Right.
And it's like,
so yeah. No. So that is probably one of the biggest things about Star Trek in terms of its cultural influence was this idea for utopia, that you could strive for that. And I like to see hope. I like to see that we would end up not killing ourselves and end up in the stars. There's great exploration with all these great ideals. That'd be fantastic.
That'd be cool.
I would love that. Put me on. I'd like to be an engineer, man. Every time we get blown up in the next episodes, everything's put back together. I want that power. Don't have that level of expectation for engineers. We cannot do that. Okay. It takes time. So I want to take a quick look at, if we're done with that.
No, just in order to obtain that, I think we got to shed some ideologies that are cancerous in order to get to that point. But that's for another time. That would be my main focus.
I see where you're going from that.
But
okay, so I want to talk about the best and worst episodes. Before that, I want to talk about a myth that came out of Star Wars, and this is
Star Trek.
Trek. Thank you.
Blasphemy.
All right.
Oh.
So, the idea the idea, now I sound like Shapiro, the idea that red shirts will automatically die.
Yep. Rule of thumb, if you're wearing a red shirt, you are dead.
Is a
right.
Should have
right
worn a red shirt.
Right to your family right now. Make sure your life insurance is up. If someone gives you a red shirt in those areas,
So the idea was that if you have a red shirt, and a lot of comedy has come out of this, and some really good stuff.
We need to lighten the load. Throw out all the red shirts
to see it. But yes, next gen. When they did the reboot of Star Trek, how it should have ended. Check that out. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. They leverage this myth. So the idea is anybody who's wearing a red shirt is a throwaway in this. So that guy's gonna die. If they have an away mission, they're on a planet. The fifth guy has a red shirt. He's toast. You know he's going to die. Don't even get involved. Don't even get to know his name because you're going to cry. He's dead. In reality, the distribution of deaths among the crew with the various shirt colors didn't make a difference. It's more balanced. I think someone did a study on that. Go through
that. Would actually be interesting.
I did not. I should,
because that would be funny.
Yeah. But it's so much of a myth now. If I was designing clothes from I would not, I would choose my position on the Enterprise based on what shirt color there was, because I don't want to die in space.
I'm sorry, that how it should have been was so good.
It was a good one.
Because it got the guy, it got the Scotty over there. He just changes
his
shirt color. He gets like, oh shoot, I'm wearing red. Oh, no.
The next scene, he's wearing a different color. So I want to take a look at, real quick, some of the fan favorites that were there. And I want to go from the top to the bottom. We're going to look at some fan favorites and just clips, just ideas to say this one. And they're unfortunately not video clips, they're stills, but you've got 79 episodes. So I'm going to start with the top fifth one. What was the top fifth one? And that was called Space Seed. And this was where you had the Enterprise comes across this ship that has everybody in suspended animation. Don't wake this guy up because Ricardo Montalban is gone. And I'm just telling you, man, it's a bad idea. Don't wake him up, because the next thing you know, he's going to destroy the Enterprise. The next one that was a popular one was sort of a bit of a comedy, and I think it was pretty well done. I even have a little keychain that somebody gave me as a gag gift with one of these in, and that is Tribbles. The Trouble with Tribbles.
Oh, geez, this one. Everyone knows this one. Every Star Trek
cute little purring, fluffy things that just were voracious, ate all the food, and just kept multiplying. They were born pregnant and just popped up everywhere. So that was kind of a funny one, especially how they chose to end it.
Space mice.
And what they did with them afterwards at the end. I won't ruin it for you, because that was just too good. Okay. Then we have, no, that was a bad one. Don't do that one. Then we have this was more serious. Balance of Terror. You had the introduced to Romulans. These guys are coming in. They have this weapon this antimatter weapon that just obliterates everything, and they show up with their. Now, I got to ask you about this. If you're in space and you're going to deck out your ship, no one's going to see the bottom of your ship. But you know what? Who cares? Throw on a cool looking bird of prey decal on the bottom.
I mean, that's not unheard of doing stuff like that. I mean, that's definitely. I mean, World War One.
Oh yeah,
they were doing that to planes. I mean, if you go back even further into medieval times, they would do.
Yeah, but you would see like those if you're flying by something so quick. I mean, you're not going to see the paint job underneath. It's not like it's going to scare you.
They're taking it off. It looked cool.
Okay. All right. I'll hand that to you.
Well, I mean, even then, cod pieces in armor.
Okay. We are good about that. Cod pieces.
Style.
That's a fish. That's a fish. Okay. So
no, it's not.
so they decked out their ships like this. I mean, these Romulans are really stiff guys like the Vulcans, and it's like logic. Oh, cool, man! Check out my ship. So then it was run by really cool these Romulans that are killing everybody, run by Spock's father. And they say, what? Yes, Spock's father is running this ship. Actually, there's the actor who played Sarek later was first portrayed. I believe it was his first time was portrayed as this Vulcan, and it was kind of cool because they were. It was more of a ship battle, almost like a World War II thing, where you have two submarine captains that are duking it out. It was really set up like that.
And that was what kind of the concept, if memory serves, that they wanted space warfare to be like, is submarine warfare. And it's like,
this is only
fire.
Wait, a little more than 20 years after World War II. So you have people that a lot of memories are brought into this. So they're going to bring that with it. So then you have, let me see if I get this right. Yes. Mirror, Mirror. This is the episode where you have parallel universe, cool concept coming through, and then you end up with space Spock, evil Spock.
Evil Spock. You can tell he's
Evil
because he has got a goatee.
Yes, goatee.
It wasn't for the if you shave that off, he'd instantly become good. After we all know beards are bad.
Yes. Well,
beards are evil.
Yeah.
Anyone wearing a beard is not a good person.
Okay. Don't look at the man behind the screen. All right. So then probably the best episode of all time. And it may be, you suggested doing
this is worth an entire
dedicated to
entire morning show.
Because it's a cool story.
There's a lot in this to pull out.
And there's a lot of influence that this had for writing and stuff like that. And that was the city on the edge of forever, where the concept is you have this portal, like a Star Trek type of portal through. You can see different parts of time in the past or different places all through the universe, basically. And if you jump through this portal, you could go back in time to that place and actually influence things. And that was the point of this, that you could influence time. This would have been one of those multiverse, probably.
No? It was, they weren't consistent.
The parallel time, the three different timelines that we talked about.
Yeah, they weren't consistent because they kind of did a mesh between the branching timelines and the it's always been that way. Not really, it's always been that way. It's overriding timeline where you have, because the Enterprise disappears.
Okay.
So they have overriding, but they weren't consistent.
Okay. So now that was number one. I think pretty much most people would say number two.
We're going to do a show on that one because there's so much to pull out from there. I think that I'll keep most of my opinions for that one.
Okay, that sounds good. Then we have some bombs. And there were some episodes that were just flat out embarrassing. You did not. It's like, if anybody's going to be talking about this, Star Trek and brings this up, these are the ones that you would skip and say, man, I don't even want to see this. I do not have these. These were ones on IMDb that these are according to their ratings. Now you could easily throw in another one, and we'll have an honorable mention for that. But I'm going to throw this up. The Way to Eden. You have space hippies that come in here. Things get weird. Things really get weird. And
skip it.
Yeah. This is a
that
skipper. Then you have this guy.
Skip it just for this guy. I mean, seriously, look at those eyeballs. This guy's looking at you.
This was the 1960s, man.
Well, to be honest with you, there was someone else with that look later on in Next Generation too.
Okay.
So
yeah,
the eyes.
Yes. Okay.
The eyes that bury into your soul.
And maybe at least rated on here, would the worst one would have been, and the little children shall lead. They were led by this demonic kind of spirit being that took over the kids, led them in, and the kids took over the Enterprise, and it was all nasty and it's all hurtful, and it was just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Just weird, embarrassing. So we'll take that off. The honorable mention would have been Spock's brain. Did you ever see that one?
I don't know if I saw that one.
You're good that you didn't. Basically, aliens come in, take Spock's brain out, and his body's just walking around, and they got to go find his brain. That's about it.
Doesn't seem like a too thrilling episode anyway.
No.
Definitely when you compare to it, like The Edge of Tomorrow or The City on the Edge of Tomorrow, that one had such deep. I mean, if they had a bunch of those, I mean, that's just. I watched that one again. Last night, and it was like, holy cow.
So you can take some handful of these out and then use them, and then they ran with it on the one we saw a Space Seed where you had Khan, of course, that
into a movie.
It came in the movie. Probably.
I'm surprised they didn't do a movie with that Edge of Tomorrow concept.
Yeah,
that one I'm kind of surprised they didn't do. Because that would have been.
Khan was good because you could focus on the character. You had Kirk and his nemesis, and he was a really good alter villain for Kirk because he mirrored a lot of his characteristics, and those two together, there was a lot of good emotion. There was loss in that story. This is the movie, the Wrath of Khan, and that was good. But that came out of one of these episodes here. So you're right. You could use these as episodes to launch something further. And think about it. This original series, these 79 episodes, was fodder for series that is still running today.
Oh yeah, many series.
This is 1969. This is or 66 to 69. The original Doctor Who was coming out at that time. Nothing else in terms of science fiction was like it at the time. You had Twilight Zone, you had Outer Limits, but then this was something different. It wasn't just kind of the spooky, weird stuff with Twilight Zone and stuff. This is, hey, there's a future, science fiction and stuff, but there's positive.
Yeah. So we have, let's see, we have, so this spun off Next Generation, Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek.
All the movies that came out.
All the movies. I was just thinking series wise because they went on for decades just to talk about the influence and how it spawned future shows. And then we had Deep Space Nine, which we covered.
Right.
We covered that one a couple weeks ago or last week?
A couple weeks ago.
And then we covered then Enterprise, and then
no, it was last week. Never mind.
It was last week.
Yeah.
We haven't been doing that this long.
No.
That long.
No.
So Enterprise, and then all the TV series, all the movies that have spawned off of it, and the remakes of the movies, and all of that stuff. And then now we have a bunch of series that we don't talk about because
well, that might be a good comparison. Do the older with the new, what's happened, how things have changed. So one last thing I want to mention about this is that what was Christian's reactions to these when these first came out? There was negative reaction to Christians. This isn't a different era. There was questions about sexual promiscuity, whether how they look and dress, what's going on. There was objections to this secular future. All these kind of things came out. Now, some of that was, I think, honest, real objections that we see how things have progressed so far that say, whoa, it's bad. One of some things that would be good was that we do have, like I said, all races, male, female, together, working together as a group. And that's, again, a Christian ideal. You don't have to just necessarily say that's something progressive. But we still do need to keep our guard up for what's going on, to say, hey, let's not compromise our morals. But there was some things that we're holding on to that are questionable that we do need to reflect on some of our own ethics to say, are these good? Do we need to look at these again in the light of Scripture then too? All right. So any last words?
I would definitely say on that aspect, it still really drives the concept that you need to have an ideology that you can combine, can really follow behind. And the only one that would fulfill that is Christianity. You have to have that loyalty to an ideal that's beyond you. That is it, so that you can work towards something that you will never see yourself. A future that you will never see yourself, but you will work towards it for the greater good of humanity, and you can't just do that through secular means.
Okay.
There really isn't that. I mean, you'll get some random diamonds in the rough that will do that just because they're good people that want to do good for humanity. But as drive an entire species to have that same goal, I think you need Christianity for it. You need something they can all combine around.
And it's not Christianity, not just a philosophy, but it's God making an impact on us as human beings.
Yeah, because we are fallen. Humanity's messed up.
Yep. We need to be new creatures. So if you like this material, please let me know and share it. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up this week. We've got tomorrow, we've got time and eternity.
Oh,
The
boy.
surprising difference between the two. And then after that, on Friday, we're looking at temporal tension, snapping the multiverse back into shape. And next week we'll cover more material. I'll have a lineup for that. We've already got it scheduled. It's just a matter of putting this together.
We have Next Generation next week, right?
Yes, we do.
So we'll be hitting Star Trek Next Generation.
Correct.
Next week. I think it's next Wednesday. Yeah.
Yes.
On there.
Yes.
So just thought that was very relevant to this one.
Yes,
Just for some reason,
yes,
right? Just
yes,
some reason.
Good segue. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.